The colony ship descended through the atmosphere of Vexor Prime, its hull groaning under the pressure of re-entry. Captain Marcus Webb gripped the armrests of his command chair as the vessel shuddered violently. The planet below was supposed to be their salvation, a new home after Earth had become uninhabitable. Instead, it looked like a graveyard of rust-colored dust and jagged mountains. "Sir, we're losing altitude faster than expected," the navigator called out. "The radiation readings are off the charts." Marcus clenched his jaw. They had no choice. The fuel reserves were nearly depleted, and this was the only habitable zone within 1,000 light years. The ship lurched again, and sparks erupted from a console near the back of the bridge. "Brace for impact," Marcus ordered. The colony ship hit the surface hard, skidding across the rocky terrain before finally grinding to a halt. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing the bridge in red. Marcus unbuckled himself and stood, assessing the damage. Half the crew was unconscious, and the ship's main systems were failing. "Get the survivors to the cargo bay," he commanded. "We need to secure shelter before nightfall." As the crew scrambled to obey, Marcus made his way to the medical bay. The ship's doctor, an older man named Thompson, was already treating the wounded. Among them was a young woman Marcus didn't recognize. She wore simple clothes, torn and stained from the crash, and her face was pale with shock. "Who is she?" Marcus asked. Thompson shrugged. "Found her in the passenger section. No identification. She hasn't said a word since I pulled her out." Marcus studied her for a moment. There was something unusual about her features, a refinement that seemed out of place among the colonists. But there was no time to dwell on it. The radiation levels outside were rising, and they needed to move. "Can she walk?" "I think so," Thompson replied. Marcus nodded and moved on. The priority was survival. Personal mysteries could wait. By nightfall, the crew had established a makeshift camp inside the cargo bay. The ship's hull provided some protection from the radiation, but it wouldn't last long. Marcus stood near the bay doors, staring out at the alien landscape. The sky was a sickly green, and the wind howled with an unnatural intensity. "Sir, we're picking up a storm front moving in," one of the technicians reported. "It's not like anything we've seen before. The radiation levels are going to spike." Marcus turned to face the crew. 50 people, all looking to him for answers. He had led them across the galaxy, promised them a new beginning, and now they were stranded on a dying world. "We seal the bay and ride it out," he said. "Everyone inside. No exceptions." The crew began securing the doors when a shout came from the far end of the bay. The young woman from the medical bay was gone. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded. Thompson looked stricken. "She was here a moment ago." "I don't know where she went." Marcus cursed under his breath. The storm was minutes away, and someone was out there. He grabbed a radiation cloak from the supply locker and headed for the doors. "Sir, you can't go out there," Thompson protested. Marcus ignored him. He had lost too many people already. He wasn't going to lose another. The wind hit him like a physical blow as he stepped outside. The radiation cloak wrapped around him, its leaden fabric heavy and stifling. The air tasted metallic, and his skin prickled with the unseen energy that saturated the atmosphere. He activated the scanner on his wrist, searching for any sign of life. There, a faint signal, moving away from the ship. Marcus ran, his boots crunching on the brittle ground. The storm was almost upon him, the sky darkening to an ominous black. He could see the woman now, stumbling across the rocks, her figure silhouetted against the green glow of the horizon. "Hey!" he shouted, but the wind tore his voice away. She didn't hear him. Marcus pushed harder, his lungs burning. The radiation levels were climbing rapidly, and his cloak's protection was already beginning to fail. He reached her just as the first wave of the storm hit. The world turned into chaos. The air itself seemed to ignite, a blinding torrent of energy that seared everything it touched. Marcus threw himself over the woman, wrapping the cloak around both of them. The radiation tore at the fabric, and he could feel the heat building against his back. "Stay down," he gasped. The woman looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear and something else. Recognition, perhaps. But there was no time to think. The storm raged around them, and Marcus held on, his body a shield between her and the deadly energy. Time lost all meaning. Seconds felt like hours, and the pain became a constant, gnawing presence. Marcus's vision blurred, and he could taste blood in his mouth. But he didn't let go. He had made a promise to himself long ago, back on Earth, that he would protect those under his command, even if it cost him everything. Finally, mercifully, the storm began to pass. The wind died down, and the air cooled. Marcus collapsed onto his side, the cloak falling away. His skin was blistered, and every breath was agony. But the woman was alive. That was all that mattered. She leaned over him, her hands hovering uncertainly. "You saved me," she whispered. Marcus tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. His vision was fading, the world narrowing to a pinpoint of light. He could hear voices in the distance, the crew coming to find them. And then everything went dark. When Marcus woke, he was back in the medical bay. Thompson was standing over him, a grim expression on his face. "How bad is it?" Marcus croaked. "Bad," Thompson admitted. "You took a lethal dose of radiation. I've given you everything I can, but your body is shutting down. You have maybe a day, 2 at most." Marcus nodded slowly. He had known the risks. "The woman?" "She's fine. Not a scratch on her, thanks to you." Marcus closed his eyes. At least there was that. The hours passed in a haze of pain and medication. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, his thoughts fragmented. He dreamed of Earth, of the blue skies and green fields he would never see again. He dreamed of the colony they might have built, the future that was slipping away. When he woke again, the woman was sitting beside his bed. She looked different now, cleaner and more composed. There was a dignity to her bearing that hadn't been apparent before. "You're awake," she said softly. Marcus managed a weak smile. "Barely." She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was cool and soothing. "I need to tell you something. My name is Elena. I am the Crown Princess of the Terran Alliance." Marcus blinked, trying to process the words. The Terran Alliance. The governing body of the remaining human colonies scattered across the galaxy. He had heard of them, of course, but they were distant and aloof, more myth than reality. "A princess," he repeated dumbly. Elena nodded. "I was traveling incognito, trying to inspect the colonies without the usual pomp and ceremony. My ship was destroyed, and I ended up on yours. I didn't reveal my identity because I wanted to see how people truly lived without the filters of my station." Marcus wanted to laugh, but it hurt too much. Of all the people he could have saved, it had to be royalty. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know," Elena said. "You gave your life for mine without hesitation, without knowing who I was. That is the kind of courage and selflessness the Alliance needs. The kind humanity needs." Marcus shook his head. "I'm no hero. I just did what anyone would have done." "But you did it," Elena insisted. "And because of you, I will return to the Alliance and tell them about this place. About your crew. I will make sure they receive the support they need to survive here. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." Marcus felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. He had spent so long trying to save everyone, to be the leader they needed. And now, in his final moments, he realized that sometimes survival wasn't about one person. It was about the choices they made, the legacy they left behind. "Take care of them," he whispered. "I will," Elena promised. "I swear it." Marcus closed his eyes for the last time, a faint smile on his lips. He had gambled his life in a radioactive storm, and in doing so, he had secured the future of his people. It was enough. Months later, the colony on Vesser Prime thrived under the protection of the Terran Alliance. Supply ships arrived regularly, bringing medicine, food, and technology. The crew of the colony ship built homes and farms, and the planet began to bloom under their care. In the capital of the Alliance, a monument was erected in Marcus Webb's honor. A statue of a man in a radiation cloak, standing tall against the storm. And beneath it, an inscription, "For those who sacrifice everything, that others may live." Elena stood before the monument, her hand resting on the cold stone. She had kept her promise, and she would make sure that Marcus's name and his courage would be remembered for generations to come.